So many faces here today. Full disclosure, I started noticing yesterday that I was getting a little bit under the weather after seeing family that I had learned when I got there had just been exposed to the flu. I'm starting to feel a little gross. So if my voice is a little shaky or I'm not presenting as robustly as I could, please understand. I'm trying my best. To the icebreaker question, definitely movie trivia from the 1990s all the way through today. I could do that no problem and all day long. That's probably about the only thing that I could present without preparation for 10 minutes, but I'm gonna not bore you with those details and I will just go ahead and share my screen. Can everybody see my screen okay? You're seeing the correct screen, not the presenter mode? Okay. So, folks, as Katie mentioned, my name is Danny Valdez. I'm an assistant professor of applied health science at the Indiana University School of Public Health. At IU, I generally wear two hats. The first hat is as a researcher who studies social media for health communication and health behavior markers. And the second is as a writing professor. Both of those things, if you look at them side by side, involve a natural love of language and words and how people use words to express themselves. Now, in terms of social media mining and analysis, what I like to do is use a field called natural language processing, which is intended to take all of the abstract noise from various different information sources and try and make sense of it through the application of various tools and various algorithms. In other words, learning from unstructured language data to construct a digital footprint so that we can understand how people communicate about health in different contexts. In the past, I have done a lot of research studies using very large Twitter samples. I have also used Reddit as a data source, YouTube comments as a data source for a variety of different health topics, ranging from sexual and reproductive health to cancer and sobriety, addiction, and recovery. I have been with the Phoenix for a little over a year now, and I am so grateful to be here as somebody who has been impacted by familial substance use and alcohol use disorders, and somebody who has lost several friends due to opiate overdoses. This is a topic in an area that is very important to me and one that I'm very passionate about. So the ability to get to work with the Phoenix and the Phoenix mobile app has just truly been a wonderful experience, and I'm genuinely so happy to be here. Folks, I just want to get us started with a couple of very quick key terms. Not that you're going to get a pop quiz on this at the end of the lecture, but just so that we can kind of get a very sort of level playing field when I use some of these terms throughout today's presentation. I already used the first one, natural language processing, which is a subfield of computer science and AI that uses machines to enable computers to understand and to communicate with human language. The remaining three terms are all different analyses that I am going to cover today, which include topic models as a natural language processing task that uses algorithms to identify topics or themes in a collection of documents. Sentiment analysis, which is a natural language processing task that approximates the polarity of text. In other words, is a certain text or a document highly positive and highly negative, and what might that imply about the person's state of mind at the time of writing? And the last is cosine similarity, which is an NLP metric that quantifies the relative difference between two or more language related observations. What I'm going to do, folks, for the remainder of this presentation is discuss a couple of different research projects that I have done with the Phoenix mobile app data. For those of you that are here today and regularly use the Phoenix mobile app, I want to quell all concerns and know that your data is handled with the highest integrity. I know when we hear a lot about social media mining and social media analysis, there can be a very negative connotation that personal data is going to be abused. But please know that these data are truly meant for research purposes in terms of helping us understand how the Phoenix mobile app is being used and how we can leverage the Phoenix mobile app further to keep promoting recovery from substance and from alcohol use disorders. Guiding today's talk, there are three very straightforward research questions. The first being, what themes emerge from a random collection of anonymized Phoenix mobile app posts? And that refers to topic modeling. Research question two, what is the average sentiment of a random collection of anonymized Phoenix mobile app posts? So referring specifically to sentiment analysis. And the third, how can we leverage cosine similarity to connect Phoenix mobile app users based on shared interests regardless of location? So, what I'm going to do, folks, is I'm going to present various findings along a couple of different slides. What I'm going to do is then explain how these findings are very unique to the Phoenix mobile app, especially as they compare to other social media platforms where there is a very strong recovery presence, like Twitter, now X, Reddit, and in some cases, YouTube. So first, regarding the sentiment analysis, what you can see here is an average and a distribution of all sentiment scores that were included for analysis. In this figure, this was a composite analysis of over 500,000 individual Phoenix mobile app posts. What you can see from this app is a clear positive skew, meaning that a majority of conversations, especially up here in the right-hand portion of the graph, are overwhelmingly positive. In fact, over 80% of the data scored in the positive sentiment analysis range. Now, this finding to me was very exciting because in multiple projects where I've used the same sentiment analysis algorithm, these distributions tend to be on both sides of the graph, meaning that you have a very high presence of high negativity, a drop to zero, and then a skew up here in the positive direction. So, what we notice from this graph is, at least in terms of the way people are expressing themselves in the Phoenix mobile app, there tends to be a lot of support, a lot of encouragement, and a lot of what I would call very happy discourse. So, understanding that at least the content on the Phoenix mobile app was positive, it led to another question about, well, what is it that people are posting in the app? In other words, if we were to do a thematic analysis of all 500 posts in the Phoenix mobile app, what is it that we are looking at? So what you see here in this portion are are a table and a figure. The figure depicts various different topics identified by the computer, and the table over here provides a summary of key terms that are attributed to each individual topic. What we noticed here was that there are two general uses for the app based on this clustering. You have one cluster of topics over here that pertain a lot to planned in-person and community events. Whereas down here, you have topics that do have some talk about planned events, but there's more so of a discussion about addiction, recovery, and sobriety in different contexts. Looking at the table, you'll see that these words often fill in the gaps in what it is that these topics can mean. For topic zero, or general hobbies, you can see various indicators like movie, film, kitty, best friend was here, baby, drew, and little. Deeper analysis of those posts, we saw a lot of people talking about their favorite movies, their favorite songs, the names of their pets, their children, things that really keep people motivated. You can see various topics related to community and in-person events. But even amidst all the positivity, you still see important topics here, such as relapse, where we identified a pocket of conversation of people talking about struggles with their sobriety journey. And they have chosen to put this information into the app where, in large part, the discourse is overwhelmingly positive, which may suggest that this is a very safe and secure place for people to discuss things that are maybe not going well for them at that immediate stage in time. Now, these analyses over here are very general. And what I mean by that is because they're general, they typically involve just the large analysis of all of the data at the same time. One other leg of my research that I really like to do with social media data is also start to understand what it is that people's individual profiles on the app. In other words, the content that people tend to post on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. may implicate about who they are as people. In other words, beyond people who post in the Phoenix mobile app, from people's social media feeds, what are things that we can learn about these individuals? So, this is just a visual demonstration of somebody contributing to the app, and then a cartoon figure trying to learn ethically about these individuals. A large goal of this, of course, being what we want to do is figure out what it is that people have in common and how we can learn to connect people based on common interests, regardless of location. This next figure that I'm going to show you over here is a cosine similarity analysis of composite social media histories on the Phoenix mobile app, comprised of, I believe, the top 250 posters just based on frequency counts. So, what you can see here is a visualized language network. In other words, these are individual observations that are clustered together that indicate a lot of similarity. From this graph, we can infer that clusters that are very close and cloistered together are very similar, while as people on the periphery, over here, and over here, are more disconnected or dissimilar, merely in terms of the language that people are using when they communicate on the app. This figure over here is designed to show you who it is that is similar to one another, or those that are over here in red, versus those who are completely dissimilar, or those that are over here in blue. Now, I know that these names that you see over here are a little bit hard to see, but I do want to make this very clear that these names are entirely pseudonyms that have no indication of a person's identity, no personally identifiable information, no indicators on gender. So this next slide that I'm going to show you that really starts to get at this idea of what it is cosine similarity is and how we can look at what we can learn about different people. Know that the names that I'm going to show you really are entirely made up, entirely pseudonyms, and have no indication, again, personally identifiable information or gender. So this is where I'm going to make the presentation a little more interactive. So if you feel comfortable participating, I would love it if you chimed in a little bit. But of course, absolutely no pressure. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you four random profiles, as well as a rank order of the most important words that they use when communicating on the Phoenix mobile app. I'm not going to get into the difference between word importance and word frequency because that's beyond the scope of this. But generally, what I want to show you is how the most important words in a person's social media feed can implicate something about that person. So we have pseudonym Shelby Tucker, Sheena Thompson, Sean McLean, and Allison Figueroa. From these individuals, I extracted the top 10 most important words for each individual person. So for Shelby Tucker, we have hike, multiple, pathway, hiking, Hampton, Connecticut, Farmington Hike, Club, Join, and Pinnacle. Does anybody want to take a guess about what this person's hobby might be? I'll give you a hint on this one. It's definitely somebody who we think is very likely to be a hiker. So let's try Sheena Thompson. Earring, today, made, hair, ring, relaxation, wire, group, got, done. This, at least by my read, is somebody who is into crafting or some kind of hobby related to building things, right? Like earrings, rings, jewelry, wire jewelry. So now we have for Sean McLean, cruise, racing, Santa, cycling, chance, triathlon, could, anybody, year, fairing, and moose. This is an individual based on a read of the other words that I think is into triathlons, right? And then the last, Allison Figueroa, veteran, recovery, Vet Connect, ODT creator, which is an Eventbrite edition, AFF edition, AA meeting ticket, Chicago Lane. Again, based on the most important words, I'm drawing an inference that this individual is likely a veteran who is in recovery and who's using the Phoenix mobile app. Now, that figure that I showed you before was a visualization of the entire language network. When we start tinkering with the parameters a little bit, that's where you start to see really tight clusters of groupings of individuals that we can largely infer may be much more similar and tied together in terms of their hobbies or in terms of their interests. So this figure that you have over here is a more refined visualization of that huge network graph that you saw that had everybody on there with more strict parameters. I believe the parameters here are 0.60 or at least 60% similarity. You'll notice that there are clusters of individuals like Matthew Roberts, Brooke York, and Amanda Davila, where if we did the same analysis that we did in the previous slide and just extract the most important words, we would draw the inference that these are individuals, three people who are very similar, tied together in one very clear way, and that is running and running activity, right? I could tell you that this large cluster over here, while I'm not showing you all of the words, are individuals who are really recovery motivators and recovery go-getters. These are the individuals in the app who are encouraging other people to really stay the program, stay focused, and are willing to help out if needed in an online and in-person context. In the top left-hand portion, you'll notice that there is additional nuance in the way that people try and accomplish this. Jennifer Newman, Stacy Hernandez, and Edward Rodriguez are all individuals that are promoting recovery through some kind of thing, right? Edward Rodriguez was one person who's particularly prolific in the app with over 5,000, I think, unique posts. And as I mentioned, with these individuals over here, as well as everybody else in this portion of the network, again, all based on language patterns, are all people who are really trying to promote recovery through others. So, just in terms of some implications, because I know we're running short on time, it's become clear from at least these pilot analyses that the Phoenix app has two uses. One, as a tool to promote in-person social connection through physical activity, arts, and hobbies. And two, as a serious platform to discuss sobriety and addiction in different contexts. The high sentiment scores, which are not very common on social media, suggest that conversation dynamics are largely positive and supportive. We also have learned that constructing digital footprints from user data will allow us to work with developers to connect people by shared interests, regardless of location. But that comes with the caveat in that actually building infrastructure in the back end to make these things happen is beyond my expertise. But I'm hopeful that over time we will find individuals who can really help incorporate some of these language exploratory analyses that I've done with creating real world actionable solutions to making things happen. So naturally, there are a lot of different ways that we want to go. There are so many different theoretical ways that we can look at this. One that we are considering right now as part of a larger group are looking at time of day in sentiment values. There's a lot of research in the mental health literature that people who tend to post early in the morning tend to post more positive content, whereas individuals who chronically post at night or very early hours in the morning are more likely to post with more negative affect or more rumination, suggesting that we can learn from individuals based on when they post and whether or not those are adequate points of intervention. So, folks, that was a short but sweet presentation just to show you a little bit of some of the things that we are looking into with the Phoenix mobile app data. Hopefully, you can see that we're seeing a lot of really wonderful things through the app in terms of analyzing composite social media feeds and being able to shrink the analysis into a more granular perspective to really figure out who's using the app, what are people saying, how is this promoting recovery, and how is this contributing to the Phoenix mission. So that's all I have, and I am very, very happy to. I'm very, very happy to take questions, to keep this informal and conversational. We don't have much time, but I'm happy to stay a little extra if that is good for folks. So just let me know.
This was so awesome. So thank you so much for delivering such a wonderful presentation to us all. I know I find this stuff fascinating, so I'm hoping others on the call did too. And I think as a researcher as well, one thing I've reflected on a lot through my time in Phoenix and working with great minds like Danny is the real kind of application of this work and the fact that Phoenix has a commitment to using this kind of data in a really ethical way and to better serve the members that are in the community and just understand how we can do things differently and what impact we're having in the world. And to be able to say, actually, it's a tech or a social platform that's doing such great work in the space is really nice to hear, particularly in contrast to a lot of what we see these days on other social media platforms. So thank you so much. We've got one question in from Michelle on the chat who says, are there any changes that you're planning to make to the app based on this data or that you've already made based on this data?
I think that's a great question. I'm sorry, Beth, who asked the question?
Michelle, and it's in the chat.
Michelle. Hi, Michelle. Thank you so much for that question. I think that's definitely a long-term goal that we are looking into. Based on what we're learning, how can we improve app functionality? How can we improve app use to really keep connecting people? I can tell you that our team who's working with the social media data is growing and it's super exciting. Jason Kolditz is here and he's in the audience today and he's helping and he's going to be leading some analyses as well based on his expertise. We have another colleague in the Netherlands who's joining as well, who's going to contribute his expertise. So I think that there's still a lot to learn from the app. I'm very happy to see what we're learning right now is very positive, and that gives us motivation to really keep, digging further and learning more so that we can keep improving the app. It's also definitely a Beth question, but I think that's where we're headed right now.
Thank you, Danny. And I can add to that. I know we do have some of our tech team in the audience, so if you want to come off mute, please chime in. The other thing we've thought really intentionally about within the pilot data was that the sentiment of so many of those posts are really, really positive, but there are some which aren't. So people posting who are maybe really in need of support, they talk about relapse or been kind of in crisis. So thinking about, well, how do we leverage that data? Because if we're identifying themes or those topics where we know people are at risk, what can we do to ensure that they can be connected to peers within the community, volunteers, or other support as we build out the partner spaces of ensuring that they have the support that they need. So thinking really about how we're leveraging this learning in many ways. And we will keep you posted. Like we want to be transparent. So as new features come out, and that is because of the feedback and these kind of research projects, we'll be sure to let you know as well.
So Katie has her hand up.
Hey guys, thank you so much for providing this information. I was just curious if there's an opportunity to revisit the information. So maybe like an email that's going to have this presentation or information like that. I was just curious about that.
From what I understand, the presentation is recorded and it'll be readily distributed, Katie. I also am more than happy to share these slides. There's no issue there.
That would be lovely. Thank you, Danny.
I see Melissa, you have your hand up.
Thank you so much. Hi there. So I was definitely just going based off. I saw something else was dropped into the chat too, but thinking about, so how are we gonna? I know that Beth just said about partnership spaces, which is great. I was wondering, it said about fielding potential research ideas to enhance the app's effectiveness and expand its role. So I wasn't sure if that was necessarily answered. So I just wanted to clarify. So taking this research that we have right now based off where these people are grouping, how are we going to use that to make it uh, more effective?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Melissa, and it's definitely something that I think I've been mulling over a little bit. All right, I think that there are certainly opportunities to seek funding to try and test a variety of different things, more so in terms of maybe an e-intervention or a digital health intervention or an in-person intervention, particularly based on if people hit certain parameters, right? Like Beth alluded to, we did have a small sample, I would say probably about 20% of posts that were very highly negative, and those all did discuss very, very, very detailed. Like these are the things that I'm going through right now. I'm having a very hard week. I'm very having a very hard month. And it's clear that those are the people that would benefit from some kind of a direct intervention. I'm not an interventionist though, right? And so that's why I really appreciate that the Phoenix has a very strong team-based approach. And so I think as we keep running these analyses, writing up the data, and keep trying for funds. I mean, I do think that down the road, there's certainly a way to make sure we tie all these together to make sure that there is a community impact, right? It's not just exploratory anymore. It's about really making important and informed decisions.
Okay. I think it takes me a minute to put it together. So basically, now that we know this, that there's like, for those people, let's just say the 20% of people or 20% of posts that are posting that way, we take that information and then we create groups that'll be able to support them or spaces when we have the resources or whatever it may be to create them.
That's
Right?
definitely one way to do it. Yeah. I mean,
Gotcha.
I know some folks who they like building chatbots, right? And if there's a certain indicator that happens when you're typing on social media, they use a certain app to do this right now. But I mean, this is again down the road. There's like an immediate chatbot intervention, like, hey, I noticed that you are not posting. I noticed you're posting a certain way. Is everything okay? How can we help? And then that information gets sent to somebody who could directly intervene, right? Again, like for me right now, that's like more hypothetical, but it is how I've seen it done in the past, and definitely something that I think we could look into with the right combination of expertise.
Thank you so much. So we should end by saying that we're looking for volunteers that do chatbots.
Have an awesome amount of volunteers who I think we can leverage in really special ways to do something with this. Like, how are you thinking, Melissa? I think Don made a really interesting comment in the chat as well, because actually, for those who are maybe newer to the app, if they post and they get little response to that, actually, how do we kind of fuel? There are a lot of people who are responding and can offer support. So, ensuring that those comments land in places where we know there is a community of amazing people who are going to uplift them and provide that peer support that they may be looking for. Any other questions before we wrapped up? I've loved this and I wish we could stay, but we tried to keep these sessions short and snappy so we could get you all on your kind of lunch break. But I appreciate seeing so many faces here today. Thank you so much, Danny. It has been a real pleasure to work with you this far, and I'm excited to continue our collaboration. Danny has just, I'm going to shout it out, submitted a journal, an academic kind of article to a journal, which is about this learning. So that will go through something called the peer review process, which it is under currently. But as soon as that hopefully is accepted, we will also share that, because I think this is stuff we should be shouting about and sharing with the wider world. So we'll keep you posted on that as well. We have dropped our email in the chat. We have a generic research and evaluation at thephoenix.org address. So should anyone have comments, questions, ideas after this, whether it's related to this session or anything else, please don't ever hesitate to reach out to us. We would love to hear from you. And thank you for joining us today. Enjoy the rest of your day.